Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome to another tumbler tutorial. In this video, we'll be making a peekaboo fall tumbler. We're gonna use some glitter, some foils, some paint, and we're just gonna make a really fun and festive fall tumbler. Fall is here. It's my favorite time of year. I rhymed. And I'm really excited to start making some fall, holiday, and fun stuff for all of you. So if you enjoyed the video, as always, please hit the thumbs up button down below. Let me know what you think down below in the comments as well. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, be sure you hit that subscribe button also. I'll have a full supply list of everything I'm using in this video down below in the description box, along with some discount codes for you, links to all of my social media pages, a link to join my Facebook group, and a link to sign up for my exclusive mentorship group. In that group, I offer a bunch of additional content and benefits. I go live in our Facebook group, I give out free digital designs, do cup swaps, monthly challenges, all kinds of fun stuff. So if you want to join an amazing community of people and makers and be in the fam, you can go to madebymandyandmal.com/mbmmelite, or again, that link will be down below in the description box for you. Okay, I think that's it. I really hope you guys enjoy this video. Let's go. We're starting with a 10-ounce camper mug from Craft Haven, and we're going to start out by base painting the tumbler. So I've got my raw sienna acrylic paint here. This is the Delta Creative Ceramcoat brand, my favorite. So I'm just going to cover the entire tumbler with this paint. If you want to spray paint, that's totally fine. However you want to base paint your cup is totally fine. We're just going to paint a nice base for our glitter, and then we're going to obviously glitter the tumbler. So once my paint is completely dry, it usually takes maybe 15 to 30 minutes. I'm going to take some epoxy here, and I'm using the Flynn Sisters Artist Cure Epoxy, and I'm going to take maybe 1 to 2 milliliters of that, and I'm going to spread a thin layer all over my tumbler, including the handle, and we're going to use that as the adhesive for our glitter. And the glitter we're using today is Bar Harbor. This is a new color from the September Peachy palette from Peachy Olive Glitters. It's a really pretty dimensional, kind of dark orangey red fine cut glitter, and it is the perfect fall color. So I'm going to take this glitter and I'm just going to cover my entire cup with this one glitter. I know that's very rare for me to do, but we're going to add a lot of stuff onto this tumbler later. So we just want a really simple glitter base. You can use any color you want, but I would recommend using a finer cut. It'll just make your peekaboo easier later on. So I let that epoxy layer dry overnight, and now I'm going in and sealing my glitter. I'm using a 50-50 mixture of the Crystallat glitter glue and water, and I'm going to, as you can see, just squirt a little bit of it on my tumbler and then brush it all over. This is going to help our epoxy coats later. Now, even though we're using just a fine cut, we only used one glitter, you still want to seal it. That will help prevent micro bubbles and all kinds of stuff when you epoxy. So I always recommend sealing your glitter just to make those next steps a little bit easier for you moving forward. So after my sealer was dry, I added 2 coats of epoxy to my tumbler. Each coat was about 20 milliliters, and I'm using the Flynn Sisters Fast Cure epoxy, so I only waited about maybe 3 to 4 hours in between each coat. And after that second coat was dry, I did a full round of sanding on the mug. So after our 2 coats of epoxy and all of our sanding, we are ready for our peekaboo decals. So I'm going to take my stencil vinyl and I'm just going to place it all over the cup. I've got some pumpkins, some little leaves, and my main quote decal. And what I've done is basically I took my little SVG and I created an offset of that SVG, and that's what I've cut out as my stencil. So if you remember the peekaboo I did not too long ago, maybe like a week or so ago, I did this same technique. So we're going to do this, and we're going to make the offset, the glitter, and then we're going to put a little inlay decal in there. Now you can see here I'm not even using transfer tape for these pieces. They're so big and really simply cut that you don't need to. So the more, and like I always say, the more stencils you put down, the more glitter will show through. So I would just keep that in mind. And as you can see, if you want to reposition your decals, you absolutely can. Just be really careful as you remove them. But you can lift them up and move them around if you want to. Okay, so there's what we've got for ours. And I think what I want to do is yellow for my peekaboo. I also toyed with doing green, but I think that the yellow is just a little bit different. I don't see a lot of people use yellow too much. So we're going to use mango yellow pop of color paint, and then we're going to do Summer Chic from Peachy Olive Glitters over that. One other thing I forgot to do is tape off my handle, because the handle is not going to be part of the peekaboo. The handle is just going to show itself. So I'm just going to tape off the edges of the handle. All right, so now we can go in and paint over our stencils. I'm going to use this big fluffy brush, and I'm just going to do a nice even coat of the paint. Now don't worry too much about getting perfect coverage here. We're going to put 2 more layers of elements and stuff over this. So this is really just a background color. Your coverage does not need to be perfect. I'm going to paint this on, and then I'm going to take my heat gun and I'm going to speed up the process a little bit. Just going to hit it with the heat gun to make it dry a little bit faster, and then we'll move on to our next layer. All right, so we've got our paint on our tumbler. It's dry. The coverage is fine for what we're going to do. We're going to do some foil over our peekaboo here. So I've got my fall-ish pattern. This is from Southern Belle Glitter, and it is just a really cute fall pattern. So I'm gonna take a piece of this, and I'm gonna cut a little strip. I'm gonna set that aside. That's what we're gonna use on our cup. And then I'm gonna take my foil adhesive and I'm gonna brush a thin layer of this all over the cup, dry it with my heat gun, and then we'll be ready to apply the foil. Okay, so we've got our foil here, and I'm going to apply this the same way that I typically do. I'm going to lay it down here on my table. I'm going to stick my cup down onto it. And I'm just going to wrap the foil tightly around my cup. And when I get to the area where I've got my handle, I'm just going to cut a little slit in the foil the same way you do when you're using pattern vinyl. So you're going to cut a little slit there. Doesn't matter if it's perfect. We can always piece it together later. Cut a little slit here. I'll just shove this little piece in there. Cup is wrapped in our foil. And we're going to push it down. Get as much of this foil as we can on here. Now this is just the first layer, so if your coverage isn't perfect, that is a-okay. If there are any spots where you have like distressing or anything that you want to touch up, you can just go in and add some more glue if you want. Now you don't have to obviously worry about the areas around the stencils, because those are going to get pulled up anyway, so it's going to look a little different. I would just focus on the areas around the stencil, and again, it does not need to be perfect. We're going to add some more stuff to this, so do not worry about making it look perfect. I put some extra glue on the body of my tumbler. Now I'm going to take another little piece of this foil and I'm going to put it on the bottom. And I'm not worried about the pattern at all. Well, I'm gonna line this piece up here so that I can line up the rest of my pattern and try to get this just to match as best as I can. Okay, so here's what our tumbler looks like after just the foil has been added. So now I'm gonna go through with my Sharpie and I'm gonna just mark off my stencils just to make sure that I can still find them. They're pretty easy to see, but just in case, I'm gonna mark them off. So now I'm gonna take that foil adhesive again, and I'm gonna paint over all of my elements here with another super thin layer of our glue. And make sure you put a glove on for this because you don't want to get glitter all over your hands. So I'm going to take some of Summer Chic and I'm going to put a little bit of it into a cup here. And I'm just going to put a little bit in these spots where we don't have really any coverage. And then I'm going to go through and I'm just going to rub that glitter down. Just kind of like burnish it into the cup. So you can do as much of this as you want. You don't have to add any glitter if you don't want to. You kind of like the distressed look of the paint, you can leave it. Or if you want to just add a little bit of sparkle, you can do that too. You can do this over everything if you want to. Totally up to you. You can see it doesn't add too much coverage, but it does just disguise those blemishes a little bit. And I think it just adds like a kind of nice sparkly touch, but you can still see the plaid underneath. So I'm really just focusing on any areas where my foils didn't look too good or the paint looked kind of bad to me. I'm just going to disguise those areas a little bit. Just add a little bit of sparkle and sheen to the outside of our tumbler. Now the last thing we're going to do before we actually go and peel our decals up is seal the glitter with the glitter glue. Now I'm just going to use the regular glitter glue. You can use the half and half mixture. That's what I typically use to seal, but this is so thin. I'm just going to go in with the regular glitter glue and a soft brush. And I'm going to seal my glitter while my peekaboo stencils are still on the cup. And then we just kind of save ourselves a step. We don't have to do that later. Once we peel this and everything is dry, we can just go right into epoxy. Okay, so now that we've got all of that stuff on our tumbler, we can go through and peel up our peekaboo decals. So you just want to be really careful with this process. You can use whatever tool you want. I'm just going to go through and pull up your stencils to reveal your glitter underneath. After all these layers, I almost forgot what the glitter underneath looked like. Okay, so here's our peekaboo all peeled. So I'm gonna let this sit and dry overnight. I'm gonna remove this too, actually. And then once it's dry, I'm gonna go in and add my next layer of epoxy to our tumbler, and then we can add our inlay decals and finish the sky off. So here's what our cup looks like after one coat of epoxy over our foil and glitter and peekaboo. So I'm going to go through and just lightly sand down the surface of our cup before we go in and add our inlay decals to the cup. So I'm going to sand down the top rim of the cup really well, and then I'm just going to do a really light sanding around the whole rest of the body of the tumbler. All right, so after my sanding, this is what my cup looks like. So I've sanded down the top rim, like I said, and our cup is now ready for our inlay decals within our peekaboo. For our inlay decals, I'm going to use my champagne gold textured metallic vinyl from Tech Up Craft. Now I toyed with the idea of maybe using like a teal color to pull this out. And then when I held this up, I just thought it looked really nice. It's not going to take away from the plaid. So I decided to go with that. But of course you can use whatever color you want for your inlay decals. So I'm going to weed these really quick. I'll have the file for the leaf, the pumpkin, the offsets, and this Hello Fall decal with the offsets if you'd like to use the same files I'm using. I'll have all of those listed for you on my website. So I'm going to weed all of these really quick and I will be right back. All right, so I weeded my pumpkins, but I'm going to weed my leaves once they're on the tumbler. There's a lot of, you can't really see them now, but there's a lot of little pieces in there to weed out. So I'm just going to weed those on the tumbler to protect the structural integrity of the leaves. So we're going to start with our big main Hello Fall decal. I'm using my black grid transfer tape from Tech Up Craft for this. This is the best transfer tape I've found to work with the textured metallic vinyl. Sometimes this just doesn't want to stick to transfer tape, and the black grid really has the right amount of stickiness. And I get this transfer tape on Amazon. I'll link it down below in the description box. But it works really great with these kind of hard to peel or hard to pull vinyl, I guess. So I'm just going to line this up in the inside of my offset here very carefully. And now we're going to do the same thing with our pumpkins and our leaves. I'm going to use the same piece of transfer tape until it's not sticky anymore, basically. Now these are really, really thin. They've got a lot of delicate lines, so you really want to be careful as you're working with them. And once you've got them on your transfer tape, you're just going to line them up the best you can within that middle offset. Just like that. Okay, so all of our leaves are on now, so I'm going to go through with my tweezers and I'm going to weed out all of these tiny little pieces that are on the inside of the leaves. Now again, if you prefer to do this while your vinyl is still on the backing instead of doing it after it's been applied to the cup, you totally can. But for me, with all of these tiny little lines, sometimes it's easier to just weed it after it's already been applied to the cup because you're less likely, I think, to lose the pieces or lose the integrity of your, you're not going to lift your vinyl up. It's pretty stuck down to your tumbler. Whereas on the backing, it might move and then you could ruin your shape and things like that. So most of the time with tiny little things like this, I like to weed after it's already been applied to the cup. So after we've weeded out all those little pieces, that's what the leaf looks like. So I'm going to go through and just do the rest of them, and then we'll move on to our next step. All right, all of the leaves have been weeded, so you can see the glitter through. So now what I'm going to do is seal all of my vinyl, and then we're going to add our final 2 coats of epoxy. And after our final 2 coats of epoxy, this is what the final design looks like. I really love how this turned out, and I can't wait to try this technique again. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, if you did, please be sure to hit the thumbs up button down below, subscribe to my channel if you are not already, and be sure to let me know what you think of this design down below in the comments. And that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I will see you in the next one. Okay? Love you. Bye!